My name is Rukaya Adamu, treasurer of the Women Association. Even the place where I will go and collect the PVC, it is not accessible. See this place now, you can use steps, you can use wheelchairs, but the place is not like that. Some places you go, you can't use steps, you can't use lifter, you have to take your buttocks down and draw yourself to reach the level before they will bring your wheelchair for you, and this is seriously improper, so I don't feel conducive, especially when I'm affected. I don't feel good, it's seriously bad.
According to Herbert Humphrey, one of the moral tests of government is how it treats the needy and the handicapped. Ahead of the 2019 general elections in Nigeria, INEC came up with a framework to include persons living with disabilities in the mainstream of electoral process. However, implementation of the recommendations did not match the reality of expectations in the 2019 general elections. Having had some time for improved implementation between the last general elections and now, the Akin Fadeyi Foundation's team on the 16th of June 2022 visited the colony of people living with disabilities. The aim of the visit was to assess the level of electoral inclusion for people living with disabilities in line with the key objectives of INEC, as contained in the People Living with Disabilities Electoral Inclusion Framework, and identified as follows. 1. To encourage the participation of people living with disabilities in all aspects of the electoral process. 2. Work with relevant stakeholders to facilitate the development of accessible electoral facilities and infrastructure. 3. Establish strong partnerships with relevant stakeholders to promote access and participation of people living with disabilities in the electoral process. And 4. To strengthen the Commission as an institution that is inclusive in its human and financial resources as well as in its practices and process. The visit was also in commemoration of AFF's stand as a Communication for Change Center, where we initiate interactions with various stakeholders, highlight social gaps for possible interventions to the end of fostering an equitable and inclusive society. The visit, which started from the only school in the community, extended to the community's King's Palace, and finally to the central executives of the leadership of the People with Disabilities Colony. Speaking on behalf of his members, Nasiru Mohammed, and the treasurer of the Women Association, among others, shared their concerns toward the ongoing registration processes and the possible disenfranchisement of their members with the following most pressing concerns. 1. No special consideration. According to them, their members are not given any special consideration as against what is contained in INEC's framework to recognize those living with disability for special consideration at registration centers. Their members, they said, are often instructed not to join the queues as their physically enabled counterparts, but in the long run are ignored to focus on those in the queue. According to Ademu Musa Kao, one of the executives who spoke with us, he said this has resulted to political apathy as visits to registration centers are yet to yield positive results. Venue accessibility was also pointed out as one of the constraints limiting the participation and registration of people living with disabilities, according to Rukaya Ademu, the treasurer of the Women Association. She stated that registration venues have stairways or situated on high structures, making it very difficult for them to assess the officials in charge for recognition and attention. Venue congestion was also mentioned by Nasiru Mohammed, who pointed out that venue congestion is of great concern to them as it is very discouraging pulling through the massive number of individuals at registration centers in view of their challenges as physically disabled. He also further stated that members of this community are faced with discrimination of various degrees from some members of the public who treat them like lesser humans. Distance and mobility was also pointed out as a constraint which they affirmed that due to the distance of the registration centers and mobility challenge that they face as a colony, it is not easy for their members to go en masse as a group, which would have further helped their recognition if they turned up in large numbers at registration centers. And lack of adequate information was pointed out by one of the executives identified as Saidu Cow. According to him, multiple occurrences of misinformation where they were asked to go to a registration venue on a particular day. Arrival, no INEC official was on ground to attend to them. In a closing statement, Mr. Nasiru Mohammed, who pleaded with the foundation to pull out resources within its network to impress upon INEC to provide a registration center within the community, also stated that they have what it takes to house the officials and the equipment with guaranteed security. AFF is already making progress in the engagement of other civil society organizations that can help resolve this in order to ensure the proper enfranchisement of each and every one within the disability colony.